I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Hi, I'm Luke Ryan for JoBlo.com and welcome to Movie Endings Explained, where we'll be taking a look at some of the more ambiguous and discussed movie endings that have left audiences debating their true meaning long after the credits have rolled. For this installment, we focus on John Carpenter's seminal sci-fi horror from 1982, The Thing. Thought of by many to be a remake of the 1951 film The Thing from Another World, it's more accurate to call it another adaptation of the 1938 novella Who Goes There, and John Carpenter's big screen version toes a little bit more in line with that original source material. The entire film is set on an American research outpost in the Antarctic, where a group of men are faced with an aggressive alien life form that assimilates and absorbs the organic beings it comes into contact with, from dogs to the men themselves. While the incredible practical effects work that make the titular Thing so jaw-dropping to watch in its transformative moments, the majority of the film revolves around the creeping dread and paranoia that envelops the entire camp. When it becomes clear to all the researchers that any of their fellow colleagues could in fact be the Thing, distrust spreads through the ranks, eventually leaving Kurt Russell's character MacReady in the assumed position of leader. Like most horror films, the body count ends up being high, leaving MacReady on his own at the end to blow up the monstrous creature and to be left as the last man standing. However, Keith David's character Childs re-emerges at the very end. We last saw him some 15 minutes earlier when he stayed behind on guard with a flamethrower. He asked MacReady if they killed the Thing, and MacReady asked the question we all had at that point.
Where were you, Childs?
He explains he thought he saw Blair, who they had all suspected was the Thing, and got lost in the storm looking for him, which is a sketchy story, especially considering that Blair had in fact gone underground. Childs takes a seat opposite MacReady, and the two apparently accept the fact that they're the last two left alive, and the film ends like this.
What do we do?
Why don't we just wait here for a little while? See what happens.
It's a very nihilistic finale to a film that was fairly bleak to begin with. It doesn't answer the one basic question that most people likely had. Are they really human? The film quickly establishes that the Thing can assimilate a human so perfectly it's hard to tell the difference. There's a few combinations of outcomes in this final scene. One, that they are both human and wait to simply freeze to death, with the Thing finally vanquished. 2, that Childs is the Thing, leaving MacReady to either get assimilated himself or to kill it once and for all. Or 3, in an interesting twist, that MacReady is the Thing and Childs is the last one alive. You could also round off those speculations with the idea that they're both the Thing, but that makes little sense as it wouldn't try to fool itself. It's a bold way to end the film, and ultimately you really can just decide for yourself what happens after the credits roll. But let's look a little more closely at the most popular theory that Childs is the Thing. It makes a lot of sense. We didn't see him for almost a quarter of an hour in the film, and he conveniently appears at the end. It just slots very neatly into place. In fact, a hypothetical ending where Childs is revealed to be the Thing, leaving MacReady to kill it and then die in the cold, satisfied that he stopped the parasite from spreading to the rest of humanity, would have been a fine way to close out the film. So what points towards Childs being the Thing? First of all, he's wearing different clothes. The last time we see him, he's wearing a blue jacket, and when he reappears, he's wearing more of a brown overcoat. It's entirely possible he changed clothes, of course, but why? Unless the blue coat was destroyed when the Thing ripped through Childs, leaving it to grab an extra on the way out. The first thing Childs says in the final scene is this.
You the only one who made it?
And MacReady clarifies.
Not the only one.
It's almost as if he caught up on Childs, or indeed the Thing's, poor choice of words. You're the only one who made it. Then there's the bottle of liquor that MacReady offers to Childs after he says they should just wait it out and see what happens. Childs takes a sip gratefully and MacReady chuckles darkly. Now, when the others were destroying the facility to eradicate any possibility of the Thing surviving, they used bottles filled with gasoline. Some have speculated that the liquor bottle was MacReady's final ace up his sleeve. If Childs was the Thing, how would this alien lifeform be able to taste the difference between liquor and gasoline? Just as he begins to sip, the music starts up again. Now you can easily read this as the beginning of the end of the scene, the music playing over into the credits, and MacReady is merely chuckling at the apparent hopelessness of the situation. Yet there does seem to be some weight behind the theory when you watch the entire scene play out. From Kurt Russell's layered performance, he really does appear to be studying Childs' reaction to the liquor in an expectant way. That being said, the bottle in his hand, if you look really closely, is the same bottle, or at least brand, that MacReady was drinking from at the beginning of the film. And just before Childs makes his presence known, MacReady seems to be about to take a sip from the bottle himself. It's impossible to definitively prove anything here, as he could have just as easily spotted Childs in his peripheral vision and was motioning to drink to make his plan more believable. There's also the commonly cited clue that MacReady's breath is very visibly seen flowing out of his mouth throughout this final scene, but there is no sign of vapor leaving Childs' mouth. Well, I hate to quash this one, but this can be proven to be false. You do see Childs' breath, it's just nowhere near as obvious, which makes sense given the fact that MacReady has just been running around and fighting off the Thing, whereas Childs has allegedly just been walking around in the storm. The last piece of potential evidence comes from an interesting piece of trivia recently divulged by director of cinematography Dean Cundey on the new audio commentary for the movie. He says this. So we were looking for some kind of subtle way to say which one of these might be human. You'll notice there's always an eye light, we call it, a little gleam in the eye of the actor. It gives life. So in the nerve-wracking scene where MacReady tests the blood of the other researchers, you can see the eye light in almost everyone's pupils, except for Palmer, who turns out to indeed be the Thing. So applying this to the ending of the film, what do we see? An eye light in MacReady's pupils, and nothing in Childs. Dead eyes, lightless, the Thing, lock, stock and barrel, proved. Or is it? Once again, I hate to potentially break the illusion, but Keith David's eyelids are rather droopy, and in this, excuse the phrase, blink and you'll miss it moment, his eyelids open up a little higher and we see, yeah, an eye light. Dean Cundey also said that it was discussed that it be revealed or made explicit that one of the two men were the Thing, but that John very deliberately wanted to leave the question of if one or both or neither of these guys is the Thing. Kurt Russell recently had this to say about the movie's open-ended conclusion. John Carpenter and I worked on the ending of that movie together for a long time. We were both bringing the audience right back to square one. You've heard MacReady say, "I know I'm me." Well, you either believe him or you don't. And Childs, you know, one of my favourite lines in the movie is, "Where were you, Childs?" And I think that basically says it all. I love that over the years that movie has gotten its due because people were able to get past the horrificness of the monster because it was a horror movie, but to see what the movie was about, which was paranoia. So, like most of the best head-scratching endings in film history, there isn't really a cast-iron explanation that points to a definitive conclusion. All I can say is that the very popular theory that Childs isn't breathing and you can't see his breath is baffling to me, as you can see it if you just watch the entire scene closely. Of course, the evidence for Childs being the Thing quite quickly stacks up, but everything that happens after those credits roll are really up to you. Finally, MacReady actually did survive, in a few different ways. Firstly, John Carpenter was convinced to shoot an alternate ending in which MacReady is found and administered a blood test that proves he's human, but ultimately it was never used and has never been released. Then there's the offshoot comics and PlayStation 2 video game that both present sequel stories in which MacReady survives. But the idea of whether or not comics or video games or alternate endings that the director didn't end up using being truly canon is a minefield unto itself. Who's to say that they count or not? Sometimes when it comes to a story so tightly wrapped up in the theme of paranoia, the answer to whether or not we should try and figure out this particular movie ending is simply this.
Maybe we should.
Thanks for watching Movie Endings Explained. Let us know if there's any details on the thing we missed out this time round, and we'll see you next time.
You have to finish off their story. I thought your ending line, I thought this entire ending of the movie was incredible. It would be what I would want, and I was extremely happy with it.
That's where he explained what he was doing, looking for Blair. He saw Blair, and the only thing we did know at this point was that MacReady was not, right?
He could have been.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Here we go again.
I mean, he was just, we didn't see him for a while. The two men are going to freeze or die or something.
They both got a weapon. They can kill each other. What are we going to do?
Why don't we just wait here for a little while?